Good morning. My name is Bill Himmelstein. I'm the founder and CEO of Tenant Advisory Group. We specialize in representing the best interests of commercial tenants and buyers. I wanted to welcome you to my show. It's called Commercial Real Estate, What I Know Now and Wish I Knew Then. I would also like to welcome my guest, Mr. Ed Momkus, who's the managing partner of the law firm Momkus McCluskey. Ed, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Tell us a little bit about your law firm.
Well, we're a 35 lawyer firm that's focused primarily on representation of businesses. And so half of our lawyers spend their time litigating, which is generally speaking where people don't want to be. And the other half of us spend our time doing deals of various sorts. And so that's what I do, and that's especially the part of the firm that I oversee. So in our group, we call it the transactional group. We have people who have expertise in real estate, corporate employment law, and in that case, we're dealing with people who want to do deals, or happy to do deals, or try to put in systems that are designed to prevent legal liability.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Let's dive right in. First question, how long did the real estate process take from start to finish when you first moved into your current space?
Well, that was pretty much a 6-month process. We knew that we wanted to make sure that everybody was happy. And of course, you have a group of lawyers who get kind of picky. You want to make sure that everybody's office fits kind of what they want to do while also maintaining the image that we wanted to set. So first month, we probably spent most of our time making sure that everybody contributed to the whole idea of what we wanted the space to look like when we were all done.
Sure.
Of course, when people come to you, sometimes they don't have that in play, and before you know it, you're halfway down the line and you're wondering why the heck you were showing them the building you showed them before, because yesterday they told you that they needed something different. So so we spent a good amount of time on that.
Okay.
And then we ended up looking at 6 or 7 buildings. That really took us 5 weeks to really be able to do that thoroughly. And then took it down to some finalists, and then started talking about the financial aspects of the deal. And then, of course, when we got done signing up the actual deal, it took about 2.5 months to get the construction finished and to get to the point where we could actually move in.
Okay, great. So in real estate, like many businesses, especially like your business, there's lots of moving parts. Can you tell us about a time maybe when you were negotiating a lease where one of the details may have slipped past and you've looked back to regret it?
Well, I'm going to pick a different one because we're a little bit different than your usual tenant, for example, because of course that's one of the things that we do.
Sure.
And in a past life, before I started the firm, I'd been general counsel of a development and office leasing firm. So there was a point in my life where I was probably doing about 5 leases a week.
Wow.
And I did that for several years. So what I would say is one of the times that I remember that a client who we had gotten approximately a year earlier called me up one day, and they were at the last year of a 7-year lease term. And they were in a 1-story office building where you had your own controlled entrance and you controlled your HVAC on the roof. They, of course, were paying a monthly maintenance fee for preventive maintenance for that. And they had booked that as their sole expense relating to that HVAC system. They hadn't really read carefully the portion of the lease that said that if that system completely goes dead, they're buying a new
Tenant's
system.
responsibility.
And you know, I felt bad about telling him that because it never occurred to him that that would be the case. But that is fairly typical in those kind of buildings, and you have to be prepared to negotiate that. So I think of all the things that I've ever seen, luckily we didn't miss it, but I've seen a tenant, represented a tenant who missed that, and,
Sure.
and that was a real problem for them.
I've heard of that as well. And along those similar lines, are there any clauses in the lease that you can point to that should be paid particular attention to?
Yeah, I'll tell you the routine that we do and we train our lawyers who are new to do. The first thing we do is we focus on the big things that can kill you. And let me take an absurd example, but nonetheless this will make it clear. Let's say you're actually have a license to have a cart on the first floor of the Sears Tower. Or I guess it's not the Sears Tower and it's probably going to change.
I prefer
names again.
Sears Tower.
I'm so used to it too. But the idea is if somehow you did something silly that burned down that building, I don't care what kind of liability insurance you have. Last time I checked, that was maybe a $1.2, $1.3 billion building, and most people I know are not carrying that kind of liability insurance.
I hope not.
So there are some things that you look at first that are the killers. So your insurance provisions, and then secondly, things that are direct money out of pocket. Anything that involves landlord build-out that you'll have to pay back. The cost, for example, of putting the premises back into play. A lot of people don't think about this at the end of their lease term. They build out some specialized offices that nobody else can use. All of a sudden they discover they have to pay for the cost of restoring to the original office. So those kind of money things. And the third things are day-to-day operational inconvenience things. An example I give is this, and luckily most landlords don't do this kind of thing, but the standard typically is that when you are ready to move in, or rather, let me take it the other way, when they're ready to deliver the premises to you, you have to accept it, and the time that they deliver it is when you're substantially complete. Well, from a construction legal standpoint, substantially complete means minor things. But just as an example, if they hadn't yet done the baseboards in the offices and you've moved all your stuff in, that's a huge inconvenience that now everything has to be moved back out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
That's kind of an example of the way that we structure it when we look at these things.
Excellent. That's great advice. And so that being said, now for the grand finale question, what's the best advice that you could pass along to someone going through this process for the first time? Or, as the namesake would suggest, what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Well, I think the key that I would say is to really plan more obsessively than most people do. I think people who are experts in their business get down to all the detail. They work out flow charts, they have diagrams, they have detailed plans about what the final product's going to look like. Sometimes when people get to looking at their office space, they don't do that. And if you have a real clear picture of what the final product should look like, you're going to be able to spot the issues right up front and deal with them before they happen. And I know that sounds general, but I think that's the single biggest thing. Treat it as importantly as you do all the things that you're an expert in, because the final product is going to be what you're going to work in for a long time.
Well, that's wonderful advice. Thank you so much for taking your time today, Ed, and I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.